Okay, well, appreciate y'all letting me come in here today and talk about the two dispensers here. So, I guess let me ask you a question. When you're the typical dispensers you guys have been installing, has it all been Dima?
Nine.
We have some Viking.
Dima for dish machines, but mainly Vikings. Or the Knights for long.
Okay. So in our dispenser, you've got a couple different ways you can program it. We have what we call standard mode, and then there's a levels mode. The levels mode is pretty much what you're used to when you're dealing with either gunning or beam. Whereas on the signal wires, because it comes pre-wired for power cord and signal, on the signal wires, if you go levels mode, the black is pump 1, brown is pump 2, red is 3, orange is 4, yellow is 5, gray is our common. So it'll be identical compared to what you're used to. Our standard mode is a little different, and what that means is the black wire could represent any of the 6 pumps. I can choose in the programming if I want to enable pumps 1 and 2 on this wire, and then use pump 3 on my brown wire or my red wire, whatever. Any wire can represent as whatever pumps you want to enable. So if you got less number of supply signals, you don't have to tie a bunch of wires together to make them trigger pumps. You could just go to standard mode and enable whichever one you want. So it really depends on your comfort level. I'm going to go through levels mode first because that's what you're used to, and since you're only programming on the dispenser, it's easier to do it in levels mode on the dispenser. If you're doing a laptop, it doesn't matter which way you go because it's just point and click.
Is your programming stored in the dispenser
It
or
is.
in the controller?
Nope, it's all in here. The controller is just the formula numbers only. So when the operator needs to choose a formula, they use the up and down arrows to choose program 1, 2, 3, or 4. Now,
So you definitely need that.
unless you're doing automatic formula select. If you're going to be able to program the washer to choose the signal, if not, then this is you have to have this.
Yeah, well, we're going to need that.
But so even if you're doing the formula select, you wouldn't need that?
Nope.
Because with Knight, even though you're going to do an auto formula select, you still have to use the keypad just hide
You
that
do.
they don't use it.
Yeah.
And keep it in a relay mode.
Right. So if you go to relay mode or you do automatic formula select, you do not need a remote. So you don't even have to purchase it if you don't want to. If you're gonna have to have the operator change the formula number, then you'd have to get
That's
that.
probably what we ended up doing because we don't have any salespeople that would program a machine or
Right.
they'd leave it up to us.
I gotcha.
We hang the dispenser, they program.
Is that what happens?
And then we go back and we fix it.
So this is a 6 pump unit. If you didn't have the 6, this is the 4 pumps here. So they're all DC motors. So if you pick this thing up, you notice how light it is because they're good AC motors. They're brushless DC. There's 2 pump heads on each one of these, and they're separate. So there's a shaft that comes through, and there's 2 roller blocks on it. So it goes pump 1, pump 2, pump 3, and pump 4. And this is 5 and 6. So all the back pumps are your odd numbers, and the fronts are your evens. And how the suction goes is on the back pumps, it goes left to right, just like you used to. But on the front, it goes right to left because when the front pumps run, there's a clutch in there, and it stops the roller from turning on the back pump and pumps this, so it goes this direction.
So you really had to be careful how you.
First install, you'll get it because if you go backwards, and you'll see the chemical go down in your bucket, and you just flip it around. Once you know that, then you just remember. But you can. There's been companies that stuck little arrows on these little tabs,
Right.
which way they're flowing. You could do that if you had to, but once you guys get it, you get it. The squeeze tubes come in a couple different ways. These, of course, take John Guest fittings. I don't know if that's what y'all use now. You can also get them with barbs if you want barbs. So it just depends on how you want to get it. This particular model is what we call a BTK, which is a BrightWell tube kit. It comes with this and the John Guest fittings. So it comes with a 1/4 inch to 3/8, so you can put the 3/8 OD tubing in here. Is that the typical tubing you'll use, 3/8?
Yeah, that's what we put in.
Okay. So setup wise, that's pretty much it. It's the same, there's no difference in you throw this on the wall, keep it, a certain number of feet above your chemical and that kind of stuff. If you need a flush manifold, because you always use flush manifolds in every install, okay. So
Is that a requirement? That dispenser is X amount of feet above the chemical?
Probably just about any of them.
Yeah, about 5 feet.
Above, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well, if you did it, you could do it the other way because this is a the roller block's a check valve basically. So as it's pinching the tubes off, you can have the chemicals above it, but you got all that pressure coming down on it. So you'd rather suck up than roll it down. And if you got a manifold, obviously you're pumping in here and it's pumping in the machine. So there's hookups in here for the flush valve. I'm looking for the. Is this a TCD manifold?
Yeah. Well, no, that actually came from you guys. But yeah, I'm sure that's where it came
Okay.
from. You're looking for the brackets and
I was
things.
just looking for a little wire that came. Come on, you're right there.
right?
Do you think you need more sugar? I don't think you need
Wireless bar.
You already have 3 donuts now.
Hey, at least I don't have to worry about anybody falling asleep today.
I hope Dan's not gonna fall asleep for a week.
If he has a heart attack, I'm not doing his job.
Okay.
You
So-
keep on going. I gotta go.
On the wire on these, it doesn't matter, black, red, it doesn't matter which terminal you connect it to. So you don't have to be specific on which terminal goes which. Okay, so I'm just going to open this up so we can see the wiring on the inside real quick. Alright. So, obviously power's over here on the left. Now this 110 in here, but you can connect that directly to 220 by just lobbing the end of the power cord off, stripping it back, and you can hardwire it straight into 220 if you have to. So if you have to come off the machine's power, even though the machine companies say don't do it, people do it anyways, you can if you want to. The signal wires are all pre-wired up in here. You got your common that's at the top, and it shares the common across the board, so you only need one common. It's not a split common, although you can split them if you have to. And then you got your signal wires down at the bottom, 1 through 6. The green is down at the very end here, and then you got the last one is blue, which is your automatic auto forma select. So if there was a washer that was programmed by your guys or whatever, and they chose a particular supply signal, they can connect that blue wire up to it, and it would automatically change the format rather than using this thing. Motors are motors. You see, you just got 2 motors. Your flush solenoid will hook up. There's like a little terminal strip. This little guy right here. You want to make sure you don't want to lose that one if you're using a flush manifold, because you only get one. It doesn't come on the board. It comes here. So you want to make sure you don't drop it in the drain or anything like that. My suggestion is probably have a few of those
Extras.
Those and these little red tabs. We'll have some of those probably as extras just in case you lose one. I was just showing them. So this is the flush valve terminal strip. Comes with the flush. And I was just telling it might be a good idea to go ahead and get a few of these extras just in case somebody drops one in a drain, you can't get it out, because then you can't. I mean, you can wire it in, but obviously this is what you need. So this would go in here. Wire your 2 wires up to here. Leave these jumpers on. You don't want to pull them off. Okay, they stay on. And that's really it for the hookup on the inside. I will tell you couple things. These yellow filters, these are filters, these yellow resistors. So if you got a 24-volt signal in the washer, you'll pull those off. So if your washer supply signals are sending 24 volts, just take all 4 of them off. You can leave them in the cabinet if you want, or put them in your tool bag, whatever you want to do with it. You don't have to put those back on if you're going to another. Like if you take this down and put it on a machine that's 110, and they're not in there, and your signal voltage is 110, you can leave them off, because all that does is expand your range of signal voltage. So if you put a 110 in there, that's fine. If you put 24, that's fine. It actually goes as far as like 12 volts DC. So if you're on I don't know who has those kind of signals, but if you want low voltage, just take those off. So if you're out of install and you hook everything up, fire the machine and nothing happens, my first suggestion would be go ahead and pull the resistors off, those filters, and see what happens. If it automatically starts firing, you know you had 24 volts. Sometimes they tell you, and sometimes they don't.
So when we go install, we don't have to do anything on the inside except hook up the flush manifold.
That's it.
That's what I was a little
Oh,
confused.
well, I will. No, there is one other thing. So on this guy here, it comes with the. It's okay if I open this.
Oh, absolutely.
It already comes pre-wired. Now, don't make a mistake. You can if you want to, but you don't have to take this off, okay, to get it inside there. So what you do, I don't know if y'all can see it, but right here, this little plate pulls out, and then the wires can go underneath that.
Okay.
So you just pull this
Gotcha.
plate out, and then you'll see there's like little teeth in there, and that just slides. You can pull that a lot further than that, but then that comes up. You just slide that back in over top of it, and it has like little places you put the cable through and plug it in. So you don't have to take that off and go through one of these little fittings. You don't have to do that. Your flush will be going through one of them, and then that can just go out the back. Or you can put the flush through, pull it out, and run the flush up there too. So just however fast you want to go. But once you connect that form of selector, you do have to take those two red jumpers off in the bottom right-hand corner. So two things you got to do when you open up: hook up your flush, leave the jumpers on, hook up your selector, take the jumpers off. Now when you take them off, there's two metal prongs sticking out there. All it is a shunt jumper. You just pull it off and stick it on one of the prongs, and you can keep it on the board. That way, for whatever reason you take this off, you can just put those jumpers back on. If you take this off, you're going to see a error message come up. If I reset power, is this on?
Yeah, the switch.
It should give me a error message. Okay, you see where I took one jumper off and it gave me this error message right here. So if you hook this guy up and you don't take the jumpers off, or you don't have it hooked up and the jumpers off, you're going to get that message. So it just means mostly one of the jumpers is, you just need to put the jumper back on.
So is the keypad just used just for selecting formula?
That's it.
You don't want the program
In fact,
through it?
Yeah, let me hook it up. So that's what you're going to be using primarily. Comes with the little sticky thingies.
Now, what are the life expectancy of the tubes?
You're going to get about 800 loads, 800 to 900 loads. So that could be 3 months, it could be 12 months. It just depends on the usage. Yeah, and the good thing is, and I'm going to explain the front screen, but it keeps track of the loads for you.
Does the load count then?
Yeah. So it automatically says it, and then once it initializes and clears up, that should go away. Ain't nothing worse going to do a demo and the thing don't work. Not that ever happens. Anyways, so we got just says PG1 is all it's going to say. If you program on the dispenser, you can actually put the names in here. So you can do sheets, towels, whatever. But if you're just going to do it this way, then that's all you get. So, but as long as you got your chart on the wall, they know 1 is this and 2 is that, then they're fine. And it's just an up and down arrow change. Now that's not going to change now because I don't have any program in it. So the good thing about it, however many programs you put in there is the only thing you get access here. So if you only put 3 in, they only go through 1, 2, 3. It just scrolls through 1, 2, 3. You don't have to clear anything out. It just automatically does it.
How many can you put in?
20. You can prime from here. So this little button right here is the prime button. It'll say prime pump 1, and then this button turns the pump on. Then you go to the next pump. And that's what the prime function does. Now, this button up here, I hate it. It's a pump stop button. So guess what your operator's going to do? It doesn't happen all the time, but this is what they're going to do. Instead of pushing that button, they're going to push that one because they look almost identical. They're not going to pay attention really. They're going to push it, and it's going to take them to a pump stop feature. And they're going to push the up and down there, and they're going to turn a pump off. It's easy to turn it back on. You just push this button and you turn the pump back on. But You can disable that in the computer software. But anyhow, hopefully it doesn't really happen. Just train them to push this button if they want to prime it.
Gotcha.
They can also prime from the dispenser, but this is going to be out in front of the machine. It's a lot easier getting here than crawling back behind the machine.
See a lot of electrical tape covering buttons.
I was gonna say,
Right.
get some little stickers to put a little
Hold
bit.
up.
At least you know what to do when they say a pump's not working. You're going out there saying pretty much it's going to shut it
I'll
off.
take that.
Yeah, it'll say pump stop. It'll say like P1 off is what it'll say. And then if you just push that button, push the up arrow one time, it goes back to on, and you're back up and rolling.
That seems like it would be an issue.
Yeah,
You
but,
know how people are with just pushing buttons.
but still, it shouldn't be that tough to either talk somebody through it or at least when you're
And there is a way to disable that. It's just that I never do it on that. So there's a pump inside of our, well, it's not this one. This one, might as well put this on the left. But in our main manual that we have, there's a way you can go through manually and turn that feature off. So I won't try to figure it out right now, but it's, you push two buttons at one time and you go here and then you can turn it off. So I'll look at that before we leave and show you how to do that if that becomes an issue. Okay, how the screen's read is the number on the left here. This is your load count number. So as your load count pump runs, which is it's going to be pump 6. So even if you're not using pump 6 is still the load count. So we still have to trigger it. And I'll show you that in a minute. But once pump 6 activates or gets a signal, it only has to get a signal, doesn't have to run, it's going to tick up by 1 and give you a load count. So the good thing is this is like your odometer reading on your car. You just keep scrolling up so you can kind of see how many loads that your counts are doing. You can clear that out. You also can clear out the formula counts on the inside. You can go in and actually see how many of Formula 1, 2, 3, or program 1, 2, 3, 4 they're running. You can clear those out and leave that on if you want to. So you can clear that or clear just the formula counts. L6 means you got a 6 pumper. This number on the right is the program number you're on. So when you change it here, it's going to change there also. And that's really it. There's a set of under right below these yellow resistors is a set of dip switches. Those dip switches are to isolate the commons. So if you got like an old Wascomat machine or something that's got split commons, then if you have to split them, you just move the dip switches down to then isolate each common. Most times you don't have to ever worry about it. To hook this guy up, because it could come as a 6 pump, it also come as a 4, and this is an add-on. They just slide on, like these little things come off, they just slide on and then it wires in up here and then over here. And all those cables come with the add-on pump. But if you order a 6 pump, it automatically comes all set up for you. Okay.
So now when you program this, do you have to prime the pumps, get a, you want to say 3 ounces or, calibrate, you have to calibrate the pumps?
Yes, you do. You're going to calibrate one way or the other. Either you're going to do it for time. Sorry.
No, I had a phone call.
You're going to do it where you can put the
Calibrate.
amount of time in there. Like if you know that 30 seconds gives you 2 ounces, then you can run it for 30 seconds. But once you calibrate it, then you can do it by volume. Then you can program, if I want 3 ounces, you program 3 ounces. So to get into the program menus, well, first thing I'm going to do, see how it comes up in the default standard mode. So I'm going to change this to levels mode. So I'll push this. Let me just go through the buttons real quick. This is pretty self-explanatory what these buttons do. Up, down, left, and right. The right arrow in this program is pretty much like our enter button. So anytime you want to advance and go to a new menu, you just push the right arrow. You can go backwards and hit the left arrow. This is a jump forward button, so it's like a fast forward. So you push this and it goes ahead. Like you don't get into the details of the menu, you just go through the menu titles. You do this one. This button here is what it'll be a calibrate button when we're in the calibrating section. And it also gives you a test screen. So when you push this is like your LEDs on your SIB from night. Have LEDs. You got input numbers. So input 1 is the black wire, 2 is the red, 2 is brown, 3 is red, 4 is orange. And when you see a 00, it means it hasn't received a signal. When it says 01, it means it got a signal. You also see down here the numbers 1 through 10. There's a little dash above each one. When a signal comes in, since we don't really have little LEDs that show up, a little box is going to show up above the number that's getting a signal. So if the black wire gives a signal above the number 1, you should see a box however long the signal's active. If there's once the box goes away, the signal went away. So as the box appears, you got a signal. So where this comes in handy is if you're looking at, say, okay, I haven't seen a chemical pump run yet. I got my filters off. If I see a box showing up above the number, then at least I know I'm getting a signal. Then it comes down to, okay, can I prime a pump? Do I have the program right? Am I on the right formula? You know, those kinds of things. If you don't see a box, then you're probably not getting a signal. So then it comes back to checking voltage at the machine and then whatever. So that's kind of what this helps you with. A lot of times if you call for tech service, either myself or a tech service guy, he's going to tell you to push this button and then watch the load come in and see if you get any signals. You may see, like supply 4 may already have a signal. Like, well, that wasn't supposed to trigger yet, but it could be that way in the machine. You know, it could be firing that signal first for whatever reason. So that's a good screen. You just push that button to get out of it. Okay, so to get into the mode, I'm going to push and hold the double right arrow. It'll say enter code to change mode. The default code is all 1s. So you use up, you get the 1, right arrow over. And now it's going to say select mode. You just push the up arrow to get to the mode you want. That's relay mode, which machine controls it all. And that's levels mode. Once you get it, you push the right arrow and it's there.
Now, if you're not in relay mode, what do you want to be in? Is it standard
Levels.
levels?
I'm going to train you guys on levels because that's what you'll be used to from coming over from night. It'll be a lot easier for me to explain this, and it's a lot faster to program on here than it is in standard mode. Because in standard mode, you have to literally go through every one of those inputs, black, brown, 1, 2, 3, 4, and to get through it. Whereas in levels, I'm just going to turn on whatever pumps I want to turn on and go to the next one. So once you're in levels mode, you push the right arrow to get into program mode. It says to edit settings, you can put the code in. And right now, this is just a default code. You can't change this in the field. However, we can program this prior to coming to you guys. We can put, I think we're eventually probably going to look at putting Alco on here and put Alco up here and put your own, whatever code y'all want can go in here. Once you get into settings, now this is like the main menu. If you want to scroll through what all the menus we have, we got settings, cycle counters, which is how many loads you're going to do per formula, per program. Low level settings, which you're not really going to worry about. Wireless USB is only used if you're using a laptop to connect, because you can just use Bluetooth. Time settings means if you want to put in the date and time of when you did the install, you can go ahead and do that. But you're probably not getting reports, so you probably don't have to worry about that. Then you get back to settings. To get into the menu, you just push the right arrow. And now, first thing that pops up here is manifolds, which is the flush manifold. You can actually run 3 manifolds on this, but we're only doing 1, obviously. Right now, they're all in the off position, so you just run the up arrow up and move them all into man 1. Right arrow over to 2, run it up.
Next week it'll probably be stepped up a little bit.
Actually, if you push it down, it just automatically does it. It takes it straight up there. If you're only using 5 chemicals, you can go ahead and turn them all 6 into the flush manifold. That way, if you ever add a 6th chemical, it's already pretty much programmed for you. You hit the right arrow. Now it's time to give you the flush time. How long you want the flush to run after a pump stops. So, 30 seconds, 15 seconds, whatever that number is. You just put that in here. And then you push the right arrow. Now each pump can also have a speed calibration on it. But at the initial setup, once you guys do a couple of setups, you probably don't have to do the calibration more than 1 or 2 locations, unless you're changing chemicals. If you got a particular chemical that's thicker than another one, or in y'all's case it may get cold and the product thickens, you may have to recalibrate it another time. But to get to the calibration, this is the setting you're going to get into. So the speed setting set at 80%. You can take that to 100% if you want to, but we try to keep it at 80. That's a default. It just helps with squeeze tube life if you keep it at 80%. Now, to get into the calibration settings of this, if you push this top right arrow, or excuse me, the prime button up here at the top, it's going to tell you what the flow rate is currently. Right now, obviously it's 0. We don't have anything in it. I can manually enter that flow rate. So once you kind of know, all right, this pump's a 8 ounce per minute pump with my chemical, I can just manually enter it. If I don't know what it is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just calibrate. If I push this X button over here, I can calibrate it for 30 seconds, 20 seconds, or 60 seconds. So if you don't push that and you hit, you're automatically going to calibrate at 60 seconds. So when you're ready, you take your measuring cup, put it underneath the discharge of the pump, you push the calibrate button, and the pump's going to run for 60 seconds. And when it'll stop on its own, but when it stops, you then, see how much you caught, come over here and enter your flow rate. So if you caught 7.5 ounces or 8 ounces or whatever you catch, you just keep holding this down until you get to the amount you caught.
It's just like the night track too. You have to do auto calibrate.
Just to let y'all know, I worked for Night for 11 years, so I'm kind of familiar with that a little bit. So once you get to whatever it is, you put it in there. Now, this gives you a date, so if you come down here, you can actually enter the date you calibrated if you wanted to. If you keep pushing the right arrow, you'll get back. Now you're on pump 2. You can do the same thing here. If you do 30 seconds, okay, and you catch 3 ounces, you still just enter 3 ounces because it'll say 30 seconds, and then it automatically does the math for you because everything's calibrated at 60 seconds. So even if you're like, well, I don't want to use that much product, and you calibrate at 30 seconds and you put in 3 ounces, it's going to say, okay, it's a 6 ounce per minute pump. But again, once you get to there, you push the button, it's going to feed, then you go up here and you enter the amount you caught. I'm going to go ahead and put a calibration in for all of them so it'll show you volumetric programming. I'll just do that right now. Then if I want to go to pump 2, you just right arrow, there's pump 2, and then I can just go here. I'm just going to manually enter something. Usually your bleach is, my guess is you're going to be somewhere between 7 and 8 ounces on your detergent and brake. You'll probably be closer to 10 ounces on your bleach. You'll be about 7 to 8 on your softener, sour, or whatever. So once you know your calibration, this is all you would do. Is just enter it like this. If you're on a computer, obviously you can. I keep saying that, but you're never going to use it. So don't worry about it.
So basically, we're using the same products on all these installs. We can just already figure out what one's gonna, whatever that calibration is. Just have it run down. And
That's right. Yeah.
Put it in there.
Now you get to the next menu, master load count pump. So typically your master load count pump is going to be pump 6. The good thing in levels mode is, let's say you got a location that's only, or you've got a formula that's only using brake and detergent and bleach. Pump 3 will be your load count. So you can change it, but on the master load count, we're going to just say pump 6 will be like our default. Now we're on program 1. Load count pump for program 1. Maybe you're running all 6, so I'm going to leave it at 6. If I was only doing 3 or 4, whatever, I could choose. Okay, when that one pump runs, then I'm done.
That makes it nice.
Now pump 1, level 1, you want a delay time. For some reason, there's a default of 10 seconds in there. My guess is you probably don't want a delay time on the first pump, so that's just hit the down arrow down. That should be all zeroed out. I'm not sure why it wasn't, but typically there's no delay time unless you want it. Push the right arrow. Dosage, how much of that do you want to run? Again, right arrow or up arrow. If you want 2 ounces, whatever it is, 3 ounces, put that in there. Right arrow. Now, do you want a second level? You guys know what that means?
Yeah, I do. We only had one account out there that we had it. They had 3 levels there. You can actually put product in 3 different times. Say
That's right.
you have a dirty load or something. Your pre-wash, you can put 2 ounces in. Your main wash, is
Yeah.
the next level.
Yep. So if you want that, you would enable it, and then you would go through. If you don't want it, it's disabled. We just push the right arrow past it. Now we go to pump 2. So now we're quickly into pump 2, and again, there's a delay time in here. Oh, there's not. Okay. Now dosage, again, up arrow. I put in however much I want to pump. Right arrow, you want that? Nope. Go to the next one. Now I'm on pump 3. Right arrow. Run these down for some reason. I don't know why they're way up there, but I'll find out what's going on with that, because that should all be zeros. And then you get into dosage. So you just push it and hold it, get to where you want it to be. Right arrow over, right arrow over. Now you're on pump 4. And again, for some reason, while those are set. But once you get all 6 programmed, then it just goes directly to program 2 and just do the same thing till you get them all done.
If you're only doing one level, that's all you have to worry about.
Yeah. Oops. Oh, let's see what's going on here. Rolls.
I'd say for the most part, we wouldn't even be using levels. That would be up to the salesperson to
If
say
they're
that
not
they,
gonna know how to program it.
yeah, well, they're usually not even going to say, hey, there's a way that I can get 2 doses of this in, because they're not used to it. But if they had to say they had something really dirty, you say, we can put some in the pre-wash, then put some in the main wash.
We'll have to get the salesperson so they can learn how to program.
They're not going to do that. That will end up being up to us.
And then-
They write down what they want, and we program the dispenser.
And once you get to all 6, you just keep entering however much you want to pump. Now, if for some reason pump 6 doesn't trigger in this particular case, or it does trigger, but you don't want it to run, you can just leave it at 0 volume. But again, in the program where it asks you which load count is going to be, if you're only running 1 through 5, then you just make 5 your load count in that particular formula or program. Now we go to program 2. Now, if I showed you the other way, that is so much quicker compared to having to go through every single input, because this system has to know, well, okay, are you running anything on input 1? No. And you may go from 1 to input 4, but you have to go through all the other inputs just to get there. So this makes it a lot faster. Again, I come in here, first things I ask you for a load count. So if you know going in, it's 6 or whatever number you choose, and then you go right back into the programs again. And like I said, that's usually 0. I don't know why it's not. So right now it looks like you have to run it down, but usually you just scroll right past this. So I'll make sure that's fixed for the next time. And all that means is that once it gets a signal, it's going to count down that time before it activates. And then you put in your dosage. All right. And once you're finished, once you get all your programs in there, you can hit the double right arrow, and it's kind of moves you through a little faster. And now it's going to get into some more of the form selection. So once you're ready, let's say you got 3 or 4 programs. Is that typical? About 5 programs y'all do typically?
Yeah, you know what? It really depends on what the salesperson's looking for. But yeah, there's not many.
Once you get through all your programs that you're going to do, you just keep pushing that button. And once you see this, you're not worried about this, because this is automatic form select mode, which is not this. It's the one from the machine.
Right.
So you just scroll past that, right arrow. It's going to ask, because this is still looking at binary, we're not in it, so don't worry about that. And then this is kind of just a summary screen. So those little boxes just mean those pumps are active on this Formula 1, on level 1, pump 1, 2, 3. If I scroll down, it shows me all the pumps, and that little box means they're all enabled. So it's just a quick summary screen. You're probably not ever going to use it, but you just hit the right arrow. Save settings, question mark, yep. And then it's saved. So once you're done programming, you just push this until you get to until you see save settings, and then you push this button to save it. And that's really it as far as the programming goes on. If you guys want to play with it, you just, again, push this, enter the code. Once it says settings and you're in, and then you start programming. Again, this is for the flush manifold. They all start off in the off position. You just move them all up. Then you get your flush valve time. Now it's going to run during and after. So as the pump's running, the
Right.
flush runs, and then when the pump stops, this runs for an extra 12 seconds in this case. Then you get into the pump speeds. Again, once you do your calibration, you don't have to really worry about it, but if you need to calibrate, you go here to manually enter the calibration or see what it is, or you push this button right here. And if I push it now, it's going to do it for 60 seconds.
Right.
So that's kind of how you do it. Of course, obviously you want the pumps primed before you do that. Go through each pump. Then you get to what your master load count is. Typically it's going to be the last pump all the time. Then you scroll through program 1, set your load count pump first, and then start going through your program.
So once we're all done, we can actually trigger this by getting our wire right here.
Sure you can.
Now, is that going to be? I have to go back and look. You said the levels mode. Which would be our common? Is that the gray?
Great. So you would hook black for pump 1, brown 2, red 3, orange 4, yellow's 5, and purple is 6, and then the gray would be your common. As you trigger them, then they'll activate for however much is in here.
Does it have 2 separate commons?
No, it's just one, but you can
Split it.
but you'd have to run an extra wire to the machine if you had to have a second
Yeah,
common.
we have.
But our nights were just splice them together.
Well, Nice gives you that option of, they have the brown and the black.
Yeah.
And it seems like over the years, something happened, and we usually end up having to put them together, because like the black would go pumps 1, 2, and 3, and the brown would be 4, 5, and 6. How that happened, don't know, because nothing was split on the inside.
You don't have to cut. You used to have to cut
Our
something.
resistor,
Yeah.
I think. But even though we didn't get in there and cut a resistor, I don't know if it was just the age of the dispenser, but they did it by their own. And somehow we figured out that they had split, and we just tied them together. So we tie them together, they're going to fire them
I
anyway.
got you. Well, that's it for this. You guys, does anybody want to come up and program anything, or you guys feel just do it later?
Yeah, we'll end up doing something else.
We'll spend 8 hours in the field.
Yeah.
Well, the biggest troubleshooting thing really is, obviously in any laundry pump, is when your pump doesn't feed. It's either not getting its signal, or it is. So you just got to determine, is it a machine issue or is it a pump issue? And you can do it by a couple different ways. Once you get your program in there, then you're going to push this button, and this is going to be your main troubleshooting screen. So this is where it's going to help you try to figure out, am I getting a trigger signal or not? And if nothing shows up here, then you check the voltage at the machine. If well, I'm getting it here, then it's got to be something over here. Then you can trace out, maybe it's a wire that's loose, maybe it's not pushed in all the way, whatever. Or again, 24 volt signals, and those resistors are in there, you got to take them out. I don't know what typical machines y'all run into. Is it Unimax or something like that, or is it Milner's, or mixture of both, or everything? So it could be, a lot of new ones are all 24 volts, but some of the old ones are all 110, like that. Whatever that old Unimax is, it's got the key, and looks like Klingonese when you go and program it. That thing is all 110. So, but that's really it. Again, priming is up here, and you choose the pump you want to prime. And on the case, you hit the circle button in the middle, the prime. On this one, you hit the enter button. So I don't know why it doesn't have an arrow, but that's also a report button. But that's really it.
So the first couple of these 6 pumps that we install, you'll do that for those?
You'll be the lifeline.
Yes. We have two got myself, and there's two other guys like me that cover other parts of the territory that for some reason can't get me. You can get those two. We also had a dedicated tech service guy. His name's Jim. You can call him, and he can walk you through how to do all that too.
Where are you out of?
I'm out of Georgia, between Atlanta, outside of Atlanta.
Is that where you flew in?
Yes.
You flew out of Cleveland?
I did. So that's it for that guy. And it's not.
The sooner that we can get familiar with doing this, because I don't have any nights ready to go out. Maybe I use one here or there, but that's why we wanted you to come in. So
Sure.
we could at least figure out what the heck's going on.
Well, it's great to have you on a board like this. Y'all can come in here and play with that thing to get more familiar before you even go do an install. But the good thing is once you program that, you can unpower it and it holds its program. You can go install it. So the good
That would probably be a good thing to have a program here.
Right. That's all we're gonna do. Program it here and then take it out.
Well, that's what I was going to suggest that you just plug it in,
Yeah.
and that way it's one step less you got to worry about. Especially if you're doing it the next day, you guys are coming in and picking stuff up or whatever. You just plug it in, do your program quick, sit down in heat or the air conditioning, whatever it may be, and then put it in your truck. You're ready to go.
JP something.
That's what I hope.
It's like the JP something to do.
No, it's, yeah.
Salesperson.
But the sales, then you're going to train the salesperson on how to program it. So.
No, you're gonna. Here.
Yeah.
That phone's going to.
So,
Watch the video.
to put the squeeze tube in, I was going to show you guys this. It's easier to do it like this is mounted, but what I normally do is if there's a table, you're working on or whatever, is put it on the table, lean it up against you, and be able to look down when you're first doing the install. You guys already put stuff in, so you just kind of roll the roller over. If you notice, it only goes one way. It doesn't really go the other. So this one's going to go that way, that one's going to go that way, and then you just create the little hole big enough to slide the tube down through it, and then do it the other. So when you're on the wall, you just kind of do the same thing. You may have to get on a little step ladder, or I know I'm not supposed to say it, but you got to stand on the buckets, and they do it. Now to take the tube out, you do the same thing, and you move it. You also could, if once it's in there, you could take a pair of snips and snip it. If you can get one down there, just snip it and boom, just pull them down. Once you cut it, the whole thing's going to the trash. Again, I don't know if y'all normally use these. Okay, so these come in the kits. They come in there. Every one of them, you of course buy these from TCD or Spare Tech, wherever you get your spare part from. That's it. Any questions?
The other thing we have is the warewashing dispensers here too.
Okay.
Once we learn how to do that, we want to start putting those out.
Perfect.
We have a dry unit. We have this unit.
Okay. So this is obviously a low temp machine. You got liquid detergent, rinse, sanitizer. It comes pre-wired also. You got a signal wire, main power wire, then this of course is your probe. The probe is this little pigtail. Actually, this manual's good. That one, no. This just hooks onto this. This one does. You unscrew it here. If I can do it. Just unplugs.
That's it. I just put it together.
Somebody cross-thread it.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. It just unplugs. This is the actual circuitry for the probe. It's actually right here. This cable, it just goes up here and just tells it that the phone will cut off. Info settings. This is what it looks like. I don't know why we put ready on there, but I'm sure an engineer came up with that. If you push to the left arrow, it's going to show you what mode. It says probeless mode right now, but we can change that. Gives you the wash count or wash cycles, so then you're actually washed. What the probe is reading currently in the tank will show up here, and it gives you a temperature. It's also a temperature compensating probe, so it's going to show. So when you're troubleshooting or when you just want to watch it when you're first doing the install, you got the probe set point at. You can see where it's reading, and then when the solenoid or the pump kicks on and off, you kind of see where you're at. Make sure that okay, I hit my titration. Let me do my titration test. Okay, I'm there. This thing here is the inputs. It's kind of like this screen here. On this one, we got inputs 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 is detergent. 3 is rinse. 1 is if you go in probless mode, it's initial charge, and 4 is the sanitizer signal if you for some reason had a separate sanitizer. But the only thing you're going to be worried about is 2 and 3, and it's just going to toggle between a 0 and a 1. 1 means you got a signal, 0 means you don't have a signal. So if you're like, hey, why is the rinse pump running all the time? Just constantly running. Well, if you go here and you see a 1 there, you're getting a signal from the machine. So the rinse pump really is in relay mode all the time. So it gets a signal, it's going to feed. So if you see a 1 there and that's running, then that's why it's running. If you see a 1 here and that's not running, then we got a problem. There's also a little light that's going to come on, so when it does get a signal, you'll see a light that'll show up on each one of those.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Is detergent on the left and rinse on the right?
Yes, sir. To get into the settings, you push the right arrow, similar to that one where you put the code in. So instead of up and down, it's got plus and minus. And then you right arrow over. Code accepted. You got 2 setups. You got a quick setup. I always like to go to advanced setup because you get all the menus, whereas quick, you just go right through them. So just to kind of show you what all these are, push the right arrow. It's in probe one, so I'm going to go ahead and scroll all the way through and turn the probe back on. Let me plug this thing back in too.
One of your little buckets.
Don't always use probes.
Yeah, for the most time, yeah. But we have some trouble counting. We'll do a program
Okay.
far away.
Yeah,
Is there an auto switchover mode on this? Or
No.
just either or?
right. You can set the access code on this one. So if you guys have a standard code that you normally use, you can put it right, you can go ahead and do it. So instead of being 1111, you can make it whatever number you want. I'll go through all this in just a second. I was going to get. So if you notice on language, it's got US English and then UK English. The difference is programming either milliliters or in ounces. Or there's some features that the UK English have for Europe. It's different. They don't really use sanitizers over there. So anyhow, it's a little different. But so you just want to make sure it's US English. It used to say American, but you know we had to tell them, hey, there is no such thing as American language. It's we actually speak English. You don't think we do, but we do. Our company's British, by the way. That's why. Okay, so now here's the mode. So for some reason this was already set up in probeless, but you just change it to probe mode by hitting the plus arrow. If you have to change it, but usually it's going to be
Now that's
defaulted.
probe and door, didn't it? So there's going to be a setting.
Well, there's
for
probeless
conveyor.
door and there's probeless conveyor, and then you got just probe. Probe be for conveyor or door. But if you're doing a probeless mode and it is a conveyor machine, you'll see that, and if it's a door machine, you'll see that. Okay, then on back end, I'm just going to go back through again and put the code in there. Advanced setup, push the push button. Probe set point. The default's 20. Now, I would just start there and then kind of, even if it's a door machine or if it's a conveyor machine, the lower the number you take that, the more sensitive the probe gets. So I would start here and then let it feed, run a couple of racks and get the water going, all that good stuff, and then see what you're reading, because it'll give you a now here, but I wouldn't worry about this so much. But once you set that, then you run a few racks and it titrates and it kind of balances out, stays at that 20 number. Then do your titration test and make sure you got however many drops you want to get. And then you can increase that by just pushing up there. I would recommend doing it by increments of 1 or 2 and not doing increments of 5. A lot of guys used to always go by 5, so we go to 25 or to 20. And that may be a little too big of a swing. So just go in increments of 1. And so if you're going to go up, just go up like 22, start it, run your test again. But I would leave it there to start with. Push the right arrow. Operation mode is signal. What that means is the black and red is your detergent, and your yellow and white's your rinse. So,
What's that?
backward from those light and red and black.
Yeah, but they got the other two colors are different. But it's,
So connect that, this goes to DPS 1 and 2, whatever, that goes to RPS. And then you want to leave it at signal. You do have some choices, but let's just say that you don't really have a choice. Just leave it in signal, because that's all we're ever going to run at. The difference is auto just means this probe, you don't have to have a signal. If you're in auto mode, you don't have to have a signal for the detergent to work. It's just going to base it on this probe. So, but we only want it to really be active once we're in the wash cycle. And that's typically your wash motor. So you're going to right arrow over, probe delay. I'm going to tell you the reason why